I'm Ted Keys in Pasadena, California. Welcome to my Tuesday conference call, a free high-powered meeting I hold live every Tuesday for top producing freight agents. Go to tedkeysonline.com for complete call information. Then join us weekly to see new, serious, struggling, and experienced sales professionals move more freight efficiently, effectively, effortlessly, and make more money financially. So watch my recorded call topic highlighted there on your screen right now. When you're finished, go to tedkeysonline.com and hear more podcasts. Read more blog posts, watch more videos, and while you're there, visit my Freight Sales Success Store for top-notch freight moving products to explode your business today. Enjoy watching and applying my Tuesday conference call.
Welcome again, everyone, to my Tuesday conference call. Today I have a wonderful guest joining us here today. I'll call him a freight super agent, if you don't mind me doing that, Gage Abrahams. Welcome to the call today, Gage.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, wonderful. We do appreciate you getting on the call with us today, Gage, and just sharing a little bit of insight with us, basically just giving us a little history of, your time here in this great profession that we all serve in. Gage, you're calling from Evansville, Wisconsin today, correct?
Correct.
I understand you are not from Wisconsin originally, Gage.
No, I am not.
Tell us a little bit about your upbringing and how did you end up in Wisconsin?
Well, I've been in Wisconsin now about 6 years, but originally I'm from Billings, Montana.
Okay.
And I was born in Montana, and I come from a trucking background. My father was a truck driver.
Tell us a little bit about that. Was a truck driver, owner-operator?
No, he was just a truck driver, and he worked in the oil and gas fields in Wyoming and Montana. And then later on, he got on with Consolidated Freightways. And that kept him a little bit more local and, not gone for weeks at a time. So
Okay.
When he got on with Consolidated, he was only gone then for like 3, 4, or 5 days at a time and then back for a couple days.
Okay. So basically, you got somewhat of a feel for this industry growing up.
Yeah, actually, I got a little better feel for it. They closed the terminal in Billings, Montana. I think it was about my junior. The end of my junior year in high school, and so our options were Texas or Chicagoland area. So we ended up in the Chicagoland area, and then he worked there for a couple years, and then they closed that facility. That was during the whole, 95 when they were closing and basically going bankrupt.
Yeah, quite a few LTL carriers went under during that time, didn't they?
Yeah, when I think they were really just trying to break the union, and then, obviously they moved ahead with, like, what's it called, CCX.
Okay, I think it is. But basically, the terminal closed down in Billings, which is where you grew up, and your father actually relocated the family to stay with Consolidated, and you chose the Chicago area.
Yeah, Chicago area. So and then he went to work for another trucking company, and it was out of Joliet, I believe, and so we would go. With that, he had a little bit more freedom. He would bring me along, and then I could actually lump the paper loads there in Romeoville. Mm-hmm. So I actually got a taste of lumping and things like that, and I could make a couple $100 every week doing that.
Give us a definition of lumping, Gage.
That's where you take a full truckload of paper goods, like Scott's or Charmin's or whatever the product is, and then it's not on pallets in the trailer, so when you break it out of the trailer, you have to put it on pallets and palletize it for the receivers, and you get paid a certain amount for doing that.
So, Gage, it sounds like you had a great exposure to this industry growing up, and
I did.
Let's admit it was a great transition. When did you actually pursue this profession?
Well, I actually got involved with as grew up. I got married, and in DeKalb, Illinois, is where I kind of ended up. And I went to
So in
work
farmland, right? Farm country?
Yeah. Well, I went to work for this gate factory. It's called Wholesale Gate Company, and I was a general manager, and that's when I got into negotiating rates with carriers because we hauled our gates all over the place. So I'd have FedEx and CCX and all the carriers come to me and take me out to lunch and give me great rates with all these stuff and try to win our freight all the time. So that's when I started understanding how rates worked. And then I decided that I wanted to raise my family in Montana, and so we moved back to Montana, and I didn't have a job or anything, and I went to a job fair, and I was the only one in that job. All the jobs were McDonald's, Burger King, and a bunch of jobs I didn't want, obviously, to pursue a career in, but there was one company called a logistics company, and I went to him, and I said, I don't want to drive a truck, but I'm pretty sure there's something in your office I can do. And he took my resume, and then he called me later on that day and offered me a job in the logistics brokering. So I took that job.
Actually brokering freight.
Brokering freight, yep.
Yeah, it wasn't your typical desk job, dispatching drivers or something like that.
No, it was brokering and sales.
Okay, so that was your first introduction to this industry. Would you agree with that, or?
I would agree 100% to that.
Okay. What are we going back, Gage? 10 years, 15 years?
That would have been, let's see, married in probably 2004. Yep, so about 10 years ago.
2004. Okay.
Yep.
All right. And how long did that last?
I worked there for, 3 to 4 years, and by the end of my tenure there, I think it was 6 years I worked there, actually, I'm sorry. By the end of my tenure there, I was making presentations to Walgreens and Brock's Candy, and I was handling all the western United States distribution of candy, even down to the little Shopkos in Riverside, Californias, and all that for Brock's Candy.
Are these customers that you yourself brought on, Gage?
Well, they gave me, when I first started, they gave me a list of customers that they had dealt with.
Got it.
But we're doing nothing with. And so I sat there for the first 3 months and just cold called and talking to them. And the way I grew most of my freight is I didn't ask for any gravy lanes. I wanted the hardest lanes because I knew that's where they had the most money in. And were willing to be flexible to get dedicated service on it. So I would take all the Texas loads. I would take all the...
You mean into Texas?
Yeah, into Texas. Anything, anything, as you know, that's difficult to move and people don't want.
The industry hasn't changed much in the last 10 years, has it? Well, it has, but it seems like Texas is always a challenge. A lot of freight going in, not as much coming out. Would you agree?
And what comes out is only paying about $1 a mile.
Isn't that something?
Yep.
I do have freight going into Texas. Ironically, I'm blessed with carriers every week that'll take the loads in there, and it's a great situation.
I actually also do it too, about 4 to 5 loads a week.
4 to 5 loads a week. But let's face
right
it,
into Dallas and Houston, and
let's face it, Gage, we're always looking for that backhauler, aren't we?
That's right.
We're always looking for that 713 area code, or 281, or 832, or even 903. Right?
Yes.
Okay, good deal. So basically,
I always perk up when that number comes across my phone.
What's that, Gage?
I always perk up when I see that one of those numbers come across.
Oh, yeah, we love those area codes, don't we?
It's a good opportunity.
So basically, you were with this logistics company or outfit for what, 3 years?
About 5 years, 5 or 6 years.
So 5 years?
I got into a management type position along with my brokering responsibilities, and I started going out on sales calls and going to TIA conferences and things like that. So I got to a point.
Go ahead.
I got to a point where I was coming to a point in my life where I was saying, I do I was generating like $3 to $5 million in sales with my customers, and and doing sales calls and things like that. And I kind of, having married in a younger family, I was trying to tell my employer that I would like to not be going out on these sales calls and away from my family, and I'd like more of a management position within the company.
Mm-hmm.
And the problem is, when you do so great at sales, they want you to keep doing it.
Absolutely.
And so I got to the point where I had to make a decision, like, well, if these guys aren't going to allow me to do that, then I need to either go out on my own, and that way, I can take care of myself that way, and if I'm going to do all the work, then earn the revenue for the work I'm doing.
Were you aware at that time that there were positions or situations like that we have today? Were you aware that actually, there were agents out there working out of the comfort of their home or their home office?
Right. Our company the company I was working for had just hired a couple agents, so I kind of knew that they knew about them, and I found out some info about it and stuff.
Okay.
Of how the company did it.
Okay.
So.
But let's face it, starting off, this company basically wanted you to breathe air back into some dead customers.
Right.
Or just dying customers, or let's call them dead. I mean, if freight wasn't moving, those customers were pretty much dead. But that's really what they had you doing starting off. Is that correct?
Right. That's right, and cold calls.
Okay. What would you say is more challenging, just picking up the phone and doing a cold call, or attempting to breathe life back into a customer?
I would say the cold call, because there's no, most of the time with a cold call, you don't even have, like we at least with the customers I was breathing life into, we at least had a contact with them at one time, and there was already like a credit app done, or we just had to refresh a few things. That customers are funny about having to do a little extra work on their end for some reason.
If they've dealt with you before?
Right, or like
just overall?
Overall, when you find the person that makes the decisions, it always seems like there's a little bit of challenge getting a credit app done if you have to, because they're like, well, I'm busy, I don't have time for, sometimes these things. And
what if you've got a truck? What if you've got a truck to cover one of their challenging loads?
And it happens pretty fast.
They find time. Isn't that ironic?
Yes, they do. Yes, they do. You're right.
So let's jump to reviving customers to, say, the last several years. Obviously, you moved from Montana back to Wisconsin, correct?
Moved to Wisconsin. Yep. Yeah, my wife's family from the area.
Just out of curiosity, was that to move back closer to family that you had in the? Well, I'm assuming that you had moved to Illinois somewhere initially.
No, we moved. Well, I did move to Illinois, and then I moved back to Montana, and then now I'm here in Wisconsin.
Right.
So,
right.
But my wife's family is from Wisconsin area, so to be closer to those grandparents, because I don't have any.
Got it. Okay. So let's talk about where you are now, Gage. You went from this logistics company, let's call it a logistics broker. I guess the name doesn't really matter in this case.
It was a logistics company.
What was it called?
It was actually a freight forwarding company.
Okay.
Kind of funny.
Okay. And what was it called?
But DTS Logistics.
Okay. So just DTS Logistics. Okay. Mm-hmm. So let's talk about you leaving there. Is that when LDI came ringing?
Well, actually, I went out on my own for a while.
Or did you pursue them?
I'm not sure how I got in contact with LDI. I have to think about that, how I came in contact with the LDI. I think one of their recruiters reached out to me, and I was already out on my own with another company called Refrigerated Food Express.
Got it.
And Refrigerated Food Express was really strict with like carriers, and it made the job a lot more difficult than it needed to be.
You can almost understand that for a reefer company, though. But yeah, I can.
Right. It was really strict. Like, so I was kind of thinking about making a change, and I had great relationship with my customers, to where the fact of making a change was easy to do. they were willing to go with me wherever. So then I switched over to LDI for a little. I made the transition.
You and I have some things in common there. It seems, just seems like when you're searching, as I was several years ago, searching for a different outlet to become better and better at this profession. When you're actually out there searching and putting forth effort, these great companies do happen to find you. Would you say that LDI is one of those great companies?
Right. I have nothing but great things to say about LDI. They've really helped me out in times when I needed or whatever, and bent over backwards to service my customer and my accounts and things like that.
And what areas would you say they're exceptional in? Based on the work you've done in the past with other companies.
Well, they pay our carriers on time, which is good, and give them options for quick pays and advances and things like that. And that was one of the things I was running into with my previous. It was like advances and stuff, and they just couldn't understand why these carriers needed advances. And it's like, well, not every company. Carriers, a lot of my carriers are mom and pops, and they.
Yes, they are. They require those advances, don't they?
Which gives us a better rate because they'll just haul our freight.
How about the system, Gage?
I've done a few transportation systems, and LDI is really good and being flexible that it does change occasionally to make it even more user-friendly.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay.
So I have to say it's one of the best user-friendly systems I've used, our TMS systems.
This is one of the best that you've used?
Yeah.
Okay.
And I've used the McLeods, and I've used a couple other ones. So.
Mm-hmm. Got it. Let's go to starting with LDI, Gage. I'm seeing what type of advice you can give to that beginning agent, that's saying, "Oh my gosh, all I do is make calls all day, and nothing's happening." I got a couple customers that are asking me, here and there for rates, but nothing's happening. What kind of advice can you give to that beginning, or even a little slightly more polished agent that's got some momentum going, but they're just not seeing that level of success yet where they can think, hey, I feel I've got it going on here. Mm-hmm. First of all, in your opinion, what is the average amount of time that it'll take I don't want to say an average agent, but there are average agents out there. But, for somebody that's actually following a system that works, what amount of time would you say, or would, do you feel it takes where an individual can actually think to themselves, okay, I've got some momentum here. This is working for me. I am going to be a success at this profession. What's your input on that?
You're asking where do you feel?
What amount of time does it actually take for an individual to get in the process, make those calls, build that contact list, move loads where they can think to themselves or feel, hey, okay, I'm covering loads here. I'm actually paying my bills.
Yeah. I think it's 6 months. I've had contacts where I've contacted them, once a week, and then after once a week and 6 months, they've said, okay, we'll give you some freight. You keep calling me. Obviously, you want to do something. And so it seems like from that first contact to about 6 months, you should have by then been able to hit them at a spot where they really needed you. And I think it really comes down.
Go ahead.
I think it really comes down to that point where they're out of other options, and you're the guy or gal that keeps calling them. Like, hey, how are you doing today? What's anything happen? And and if they give you time for some small talk, write that stuff down so you can bring it back up. Like if you hear about a kid of theirs doing stuff, then you can remember that. But people like that.
People love it when they pay attention to you.
Yeah, and
I mean, not just people. We all love it.
Yeah.
And
was it Carnegie said that greatest thing is the people is their first name. So just
the sweetest sound to a person's ear is the sound of their name. I mean, if there's anything to remember, it would be that.
And if you remember their child's name, which is endearing to them, that's even more, or just little things.
Wow. How many children do you have, Gage?
I have 5.
You have 5 children?
I have 5 kids.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Elementary?
I have, my oldest is 14 all the way down to 6.
Okay. So how would that feel to you if somebody, say an insurance agent came calling for the umpteenth time, and they mention, they happen to mention that, your son is going to be starting, basketball this season or something along those lines?
Oh, it does mean a lot, because then you have a point of reference to talk to other than freight.
Okay.
Because the freight is important. Yes, we'll get to that, but let's find out how the person's doing. Or I found that to be more successful. And I'm old school. I still use a notebook, and I label like each page when I have a customer contact. I find out who's the person in charge, and I start hammering on that, and then I find out as much possible I can about them just through small talk, chit-chat, and then I get to freight. And I write all that stuff down.
Do you keep a small notebook for each contact of yours, or is it not that detailed?
No, it's not that detailed, but I keep a notebook, and then when I fill it up, I save it. And then when I'm filling, the slow months, January through March,
Correct.
I'll go through that and carry customers I'm not working on. I just go through and remember the person and then make that phone call and then go from there.
Okay. So basically your aim is to remember things about conversations that you've had, things along those lines that'll get their attention. But
right.
would you say overall the average customer utilizes you when they actually have a challenge or a problem that they're going through at the time?
I would say so. That's when I've made my best contact, is when they're up against the wall kind of panicking, and I'm like, okay. Because most of the time the checkbook's open then, and you're just putting in, what's it called? They just agree to the rate. It's like a flat rate. Okay, get it moved for me. And then you're like, after this, let's put in rates, and then you'll have me, and we don't have to do this. Mm-hmm. And you're like, yeah, that'll...
But let's face it, that's typically how we get into a customer. Would you agree?
That's right. I would agree. I've made my most.
So do we know when that problem's going to come? Gage?
That's why we have to keep in. That's why we have to keep in contact, and you'll know when freight's starting to move too. So that's when you start contacting them, like, hey, what's going on? It's starting to warm up. Everything's kind of moving right now. So
yeah, yes it is. But just Go ahead.
Most rates are all put in place in January. So that's when you need to be contacting people, because that's when they're booking their year out, is January.
Okay. What industries do you serve, Gage?
I've served all except for like intermodal. I haven't done much of that.
You mean rail?
Everything, but yeah, rail.
Okay.
I don't do much. I've done it, but I used a third party to handle it for me.
Okay.
Let's see here. I haven't done any ocean, but right now mainly I'm in refrigerated food.
Okay, so basically would you say that's your specialty?
I would say that is my specialty. Yep.
Reefer frozen?
Both, frozen or chilled.
Frozen or chilled, right. Okay. So do you do produce?
I have, but I kind of shy away with it just because of the seasonality of it, and the claim possibility is pretty rough.
Okay. So shall I assume that you've been down that road?
Yes.
For a time or two?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yep.
What's the upside?
Upside is great rates when it's running, and a lot of money to be made for a couple months. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Downside is you're probably going to get a claim. It just happens in produce. And next thing you know, you got a carrier that's facing a claim, and then all of a sudden you lose your good carrier because they're shelling out of pocket to pay the claim, and it's just a hassle.
Okay. Okay. Any other words of advice you could give to our listening audience here, Gage?
I never take like no.
Go ahead.
I never take no as a final answer, and that's why I save my notebooks and go back to them. Because, like you said, there's going to be a time when they need some help, and so I just don't give up on. I take it as no, not at this time, because we can be professional and just we're both doing businesses.
Okay. Great scenario then. Let me run this by you here. I mean, this actually happened to me yesterday. Let's see what your input is. I've got I haul freight out of two industries in western Colorado. This one company, all their freight. Well, I found out recently. I thought all their freight was customer routed, but then again, I was told by somebody in the organization that they do have a logistics coordinator, which pretty much told me, hey, they've got to find trucks somewhere along the line. I found out this gentleman's name. I had a flatbed available one week. I emailed him or somehow got his email, and he told me, no, don't have anything for you. I continued to email him. We did not have a conversation, but continued to email him for a few times, and he basically said yesterday, look, take me off your distribution list. Boy, heartbreaking, because I do a lot of loads out of this facility, and of course I do it with my own customers because the freight is customer routed. But here's the logistics guy in the actual plant saying, hey, take me off your distribution list. I explained to him, hey, look, I have extra trucks in your area every week. I already work with some of your current customers that buy from you, and typically I'll have a couple extra trucks with carriers that I frequently use. Can I just let you know when I have some extra trucks? Not just send out this generic email to you. Can I just let you know when I have some extra trucks in the area? And he basically said, no, I only deal directly with carriers. I have no need. I have no need for you. I have no need for you right now, Ted. He didn't even call me by my name, but basically, Ted, I have no need for you. Okay. What do you do in a situation like that?
Well, obviously he's carrier driven, and so he's basically he probably doesn't really. He's probably got horror stories from the carriers from bad brokers, because there's a lot of them out there, as with bad carriers. And he's gotten to the point where, he's comfortable, and his job is made easy by these carriers, and he doesn't understand the availability of what a broker can offer him. I would probably do two things. One is obviously not email him again for a little while, but I would set up maybe a visit to the company personal, if it's that important for you, because you already have customers loading out of there. I've been to a lot of places where my customers use. I've just went there to see how the operations run and see how, like when I know a truck's going to pick up there, I've showed up and met my carrier that's going to be there and said, okay, let's watch how this loads. This is great.
You live in Evansville, Wisconsin. Your customer is in Memphis, Tennessee. Actually, that's not a bad drive, Gage.
No.
Let me stretch out a little further. Your customer is in Pensacola, Florida. Do you get in your car and jump in your car and take a drive there?
Well, I'd fly down there, but I'd set it up, and maybe even just surprise. I mean, maybe he's there, maybe he's not, but just find out. I mean, if it's that important to you and you want to grow it, I mean, to meet him face to face would show the dedication, and maybe even one of his superiors would see that. And that puts him in the predicament of like, why aren't you using this guy? He's here trying to help you.
Great advice, Gage. Yeah, great advice. My dilemma is this plant is in the mountains of western Colorado. I've already been there twice.
Yeah.
Of course, now I just find out about they have this logistics guy. I've got some thinking. I definitely have some thinking to do on that one. But great advice on just hold off on contacting for a while.
Yeah. What about your customer? Does your customer go and visit the plant?
I've got several customers that haul this product out of there.
What if you showed up with your customer there one time?
Great ideas. Great ideas. No, these are ideas that I have in my mind. I was just curious to see how you would fill in the blank on that.
Sounds like we think alike.
Yep, absolutely. Gage, anything else that you could offer to the listening audience before I open this up to question and answer?
I mean,
what kind of advice? Excuse me. What kind of advice can you give that beginning agent who's been at it for, say, a month or two? I know you've been there, right?
Yep.
What advice can you give to that beginning agent who's been at it for a month or two, who's just starting to grow his list and getting a couple of responses on his freight requests?
Especially in a month or two, it's no reason. I mean, a lot of people quit in a month or two because it
Say that again.
gets a little hard. A lot of people quit in a month or two just because it gets a little hard. And
a lot of people or most people?
Yeah, I'd say most people. Because it gets a little hard and it's difficult handling rejection. But if you're already starting to move a little freight and you're starting to get some contacts, then you should already start to see that it's getting better, and that it's just going to continue getting better by the hard work that you put into it.
Wait, this profession isn't easy? Is that what you're saying?
No, it is not easy, and it is definitely not for everyone.
Proceed. Keep going.
Well, I mean, it's like you say, the handling rejection, but don't give up. There'll be that customer. You will come across the customer that will appreciate your hard work and your contacts and your calling every other day saying, hey, what can I help you with? Yes, you can help me with this. Take care of it. Here's a list of loads I have. Which ones do you want?
That may happen every 1 in 20, but still.
Yeah, yep.
1 in 20.
And all of a sudden,
1 in 20 nails down to 1 in 15.
Yeah, and how about when you get it?
10.
How about when you get that customer and you start moving a load or two, and then next thing you know, like you're saying, oh, I'm moving 5 or 6 with them. Oh, next thing you know, I'm moving 20. Next thing you know, I'm moving 30 to 50 per week.
Mm-hmm.
All it takes is some tenacity.
Does that all happen within 6 months of somebody starting?
I have a customer that I've had since about 8 years, and it took me about 5 or 6 years before I got up to like 5 loads a week. But once I hit 5 or 6 loads a week, I opened up the books to all their other locations, and then I've grown it to about 30 to 40 a week.
30 to 40 a week. And you said it took you 5 to 6 years. Is that correct?
5 to 6 years, starting off with like, well, I'm thinking the first year I did like 1 or 2 lanes, and then all of a sudden it's grown into my greatest customer and a personal. I'm friends with the owner of the company. Mm-hmm. That's how long I've been with them.
Mm-hmm. Great.
So
great examples, Gage. We appreciate hearing that. But let's just face it, it's determination and perseverance.
And they want to know that you care about their product as much as they do. I mean, a lot of these companies are still owned by the person that created it. And it's not shareholders, it's still people that, created this and grew their company, and they want to know that you have the same respect and value it as much as they do, putting it out there for the general public.
Awesome advice, Gage. Gage, are you open to a little Q&A?
I am.
Okay, wonderful. Questions, comments for Gage here? You know what to do, guys. Hit *6. Questions or comments for Gage? Hit *6. Gage, you say you have 5 children?
Yes, I do.
Okay, and what did you say, ranging from 6 to 14?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, my oldest is 14, all the way down to 6.
Also, do you live in Evansville or Albany?
I live in between both.
Okay, good deal. So who's first
I
on the
think
line?
I think we're considered Albany Township. So.
Okay. Who is first on the line for Gage?
I got a question. This is Ben in Queen Creek.
Gage, this is Ben in Queen Creek, Arizona, another fellow Wisconsinite.
Okay.
Hey, Gage. I got a brother in
Hey, how are
Stoughton,
you?
Wisconsin. So,
Brother
you got a friend
Brother where, Ben?
I have a brother. Well, I have a brother in my hometown, and I have a brother in Stoughton, Wisconsin, which is not far from you.
No, my wife actually manages a gym in Stoughton.
In Stoughton.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Ben.
What kind of advice do you have for? I've been into that thing 4 or 5 months, and just kind of feel like I've almost reached a little bit of a plateau here as far as moving some loads and getting more loads into the system. Also, another question is, when you first started out, did you try to find a niche, or did you just try moving anything and everything?
When I first started out, I only had a 3-month agreement with my employer, so I tried to move everything and anything to keep my job.
Mm-hmm.
So that's how I got experience in everything. You know, it was a crash course in Freight 101. So obviously I made it through the first 3 months because I'm, still doing what I'm doing.
My recollection, Gage, is that they gave you a number of customers, or basically inactive customers, to reignite. Is that correct?
Yeah, that and cold call list.
Oh, and a cold call list. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So basically, Ben is at the 4 or 5 month level. Let's say four months, and he says he feels he's at a plateau. What advice can you give somebody when they say they feel they're at a plateau, Gage?
Your current customers, have you maximized all the freight that they're running of your current customers? There's obviously more freight that they're running that they're not using you on. Is that correct?
Yeah, no, not at all. I haven't maximized I haven't even come close to maximizing any of these customers' freight.
Do they know that you want more freight?
Oh yeah. I mean, for the most part, I'm getting my big thing is I'm working off a lot of email daily load lists.
Okay.
So there's numerous people working on them.
Yeah, you're fighting against 20 other carriers, and you're fighting over pennies.
Correct.
Right. Yeah, those load lists are difficult to fight off of. I mean, they're good freight, but you need to get to the point where your customer doesn't put your loads on that list and just gives them to you directly. So I would work on that angle.
Right. Kind of getting exclusivity is what I've been trying to bring up to the people that I've been talking to. So.
Yeah, definitely. And your carriers will appreciate that more rather than the 20 people that just posted the same load.
Right.
I have some customers that do that too.
And I've seen, like, even, at the end of last week was kind of a slower week for me, but I did try to focus on getting more contacts as far as the carriers, even to take care of some of these loads, to move the loads. And I mean, I'm starting to see where, I had a guy tell me Monday that to call him on a daily basis every morning and touch base with him and let him know what he's got. So I'm trying to turn him into like a more exclusive customer. So the big thing is just, the motivation, obviously. Stay motivated and keep moving forward. Is about the only way to do this.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, obviously you have some contacts that are giving you freight. I'd work towards that exclusive loads that they'll put you on, and just work and develop that relationship so you can get some of your freight just sent to you directly rather than fight with the other 20, 30 carriers. And then all those loads are posted. I mean, that's what they do. They get that load list and just post it out there, and they say, okay, I can cover this one when we get some calls.
Right.
But yeah, don't give up. You're already moving freight. If you're already moving freight, then you're in the battle.
Yeah, and I don't plan. I have no intentions of giving up. I'm just always trying to get insight, and keep the motivation going there, and
Definitely.
Never ever stop making contact with. Never stop making contact with the marketplace.
Mm-hmm.
And don't be afraid of reaching out of your comfort zone of some other lanes or some other say it's flatbed freight. Look at some refrigerated food. Look at some other things. You're in Wisconsin. There's lots of refrigerated food moving.
Well, I'm in Arizona, but I know
You're
a lot of.
not.
Yeah, I'm actually in Arizona, but I have a lot of contacts as far as carriers in Wisconsin.
Okay.
Yeah.
That move produce,
There's lots
because they
of-
don't move produce, they move all, for the most part. I mean, I know a lot of smaller trucking companies that are flatbed and reefers. So.
Yeah. So are you trying to work the produce out of Nogales?
Yeah, actually, I have. Ted knows that I've been working on some of this produce stuff coming out of Nogales. It's been a little bit of a battle, but I just keep making contact with him on a daily basis, and eventually it'll break. Yeah.
None of this.
Well, the
None of
part
this.
is,
Let's face it, Gage. None of this stuff happens overnight.
no.
It does not happen overnight. When you make a little contact here and build and grow it, a little contact here and grow that. But you're talking exclusivity. Well, I mean, let's face it, exclusivity is built over time. Wouldn't you agree, Gage?
I would agree. I would agree to that.
But when you're at that point of exclusivity where your customer just sends you the loads, I mean, doesn't even question your rate. Boy, you have arrived. Now, you still have a ways to go, but boy, that is the goal. When your customer place so much confidence in you that they just send you the load, and they know that you're going to get the load moved. It's a great feeling having those customers. Wouldn't you agree?
I would agree. If you're going to move the produce out of there, you need to develop also your relationship with your carriers out of there, so that you can work your rate a little bit, and then because really it comes to rates for those produce guys. And once you get a great relationship with a carrier, I'll give you an example. I haul freight out of McAllen, Texas, which is mainly a produce area, and the rates go bonkers when produce hits. I worked a deal with my carriers. I have about 5 or 6 carriers that I give freight up to them year round, and they don't haul any produce. And they haul my freight all year round. Even when the produce is running, they just haul my freight because I've worked with them, and then I've convinced them that, hey, I can give you this rate year round, or you can go haul freight for 5 months and then be done. But it took a while for me to convince them of that. So I would look for maybe a shipper out of that area that ships year round, and that's been the way I've been able to withstand the produce binges when they're paying $5-6 a mile to get that stuff out of there.
Yeah, and I've got a lot of contacts with a lot of carriers because I've been working, I mean, pretty much the first month that I was on with Ted, one of the loads I moved was a produce load from Nogales going to Canada. And I've been in contact with that guy. I've been in contact with that company and numerous companies, you know, and so I've made a lot of contact as far as like carriers. So usually as far as getting the load covered, I don't think it's going to be an issue. It's just a matter of getting to the point to where they, you know, start forking over a few more loads for me.
This is not a sprint. It's a marathon.
Nope.
Plain and simple. Plain and simple.
Yep, and work on
hey,
your...
Ben, Ben, we're going to move on here. Okay, buddy?
Okay.
Thank you, Ben.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks for the question, Ben. Who's next on the call? Hit *6. Next on the call, hit *6. So McAllen, Texas, Gage? I'm assuming this is not produce you're moving out of there. I mean, it's on. So basically, does your freight come out of there or go into McAllen?
Well, it comes out of McAllen.
Oh, okay. Okay.
It comes across the border and then goes to it breaks out of a little storage area there in McAllen.
Great. And the carriers that you use, are they, I mean, can I assume they're based out of Texas? I mean,
they are based out of McAllen or Hidalgo.
Okay. So they're out of South Texas. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, you probably have, over time, as they give you more freight, you may bring a few others in that, are looking for backhauls.
Yep.
Yep. It all works out. But my main point there to Ben and to everybody is this takes time. You don't just develop relationship with carriers. You first of all, and tell me if you agree with this, Gage, you first of all have to show them that you have the freight.
Mm-hmm.
You actually have to provide them with loads to move. I mean, you could go out there and make calls all day and, call these carriers and say, hey, great, I got a carrier name and number here and an email address. But in reality, that doesn't mean anything unless you have some freight for them to actually move.
Right. Yep.
You
got to grow that customer.
Absolutely. Who's next on the call, guys?
Yeah, hi, this is Greg in Woodbury, Minnesota.
Greg in Woodbury, Minnesota. Gage?
Hey, Greg.
Hey, Gage. I got a question. So let's say you've been calling on somebody for, a month or two, maybe 6 months, and they're finally at that point where they need your help.
Yeah.
And then so then they're willing to talk to you, they're willing to give you a load. What happens, though, if you post the load and the phone doesn't ring? Then, you're there to help them, but then you're still not able to find a carrier.
Yeah.
How do you...
What ingenious answer do you have for Greg? Here, Gage.
Well, Greg, yeah, what I do is, and I've ran into that before, but what I also do is I look, obviously it's a lane that they're having problems with, and so they have more money on it, and we've already talked about that, but I look to like 150 to 200 mile radius for trucks. And I'll sweeten the deal and say, hey, I'll help you with your deadhead a little bit, and then just pass that rate over to the customer.
Okay.
And then I take a little percentage lower on it, but obviously they need help on it. So look, if you're going to post your load, look at where you're posting it, and then maybe pick a town a little bit closer or a little bit further away and post the load out of there too.
Okay.
I think the term's called ghost posting. Ted, have you heard that before?
Oh, yeah. Yep.
Some people get a little upset about it, but if you're willing to help them out on their deadhead a little bit, I don't think they really care.
They get upset when you don't actually have a load. But
right.
if you have a load, but it's 50 miles from there, it's
right.
really up to them to decide yes or no.
And I've actually never posted my customers' loads out of the town because I was always afraid that either one, my customer would find out I'm posting their loads, or number two, the other carriers that are trying to steal my freight will call my customer like, hey, he's posting your loads out there, because they'll do that sometimes.
Yeah. But back to Greg's question. Greg, what you're talking about is a typical scenario. It is so typical. It's so typical. But one thing you have to realize is when they send you an email, that says help with all exclamation points behind it, you have to read the clues for one thing.
Mm-hmm.
You have to read the clues. Somebody is finally giving you the opportunity to move some freight or their freight. Read the clues. What are they saying in their email? Ask them, what are you willing to pay on this one? You've got to, I think I've asked you yourself, Greg, ask your customer, what are they paying on this? But again, it's based on the facts that you're given. But yeah, if you've been working this customer for 6 months, and all of a sudden they've got something for you, you can kind of assume that it's a challenging load that they're attempting to move.
Another thing I do is go to the customer when you have that. Sorry, Ted, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, go ahead.
Another thing, when you go to the customer and say you found a truck that's 150 miles away, be like, okay, I have a truck empty, but he's 150 miles away. I'm going to have to help him to come over and get your load. And they'll be most of the time they'll be like, okay, I'll pay $1 a mile to get him over here, and then here's the rate. So that's the one way to go to your customer and be like, hey, he's over here. And just be honest with him. I got to deadhead him over to help your load, but he's our truck. So most of the time they'll be willing to help you out in that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. And you'll see, Greg, because it's going to happen. Guaranteed it will happen.
Yeah.
Are you talking about Minnesota freight there, Greg?
Uh-huh.
Is it Minnesota freight?
No. This was just. I was just because along a similar vein, what's happened is where, somebody will say, okay, get me a rate, and then I'll get lots of phone calls from carriers, and I get the rates, and then when I talk to the customer, they say, well, I got it covered for $200 less than what you're quoting me. So I don't, I don't know if that's common or.
That is common. So how?
Okay.
So
Extremely
you look at
common.
that like, okay, yeah, and so you look at that and be like, okay, he got that covered for $200 less. So when I post that load, I need to figure out $200 out of that load and still make money. So you got to figure out how to get that money out of the carrier and still make your percentage. So he gave you the golden ticket right there. He got it moved for $200 less. So you have the rate now. So you're in the driver's seat.
But then
when you start negotiating with carriers.
I see what you're saying, but then when I get the phone calls from the carriers and I quote them that new rate, they say, "Oh man, and I know, they're saying there's no way, they
take a hike, Greg, from Woodbury.
Yeah, basically take a hike.
Yeah. So you need to just keep working on the carriers, and then maybe how about $100? Try $100. Try to figure out $100 in there. You're getting closer to their amount.
Okay.
Greg, does that make sense?
No, it does. Yeah, I mean, it just sounds like it's one of those things that it's going to happen, and you just.
It's going to happen.
It's going to happen.
And after 2 years, this will be like a no-brainer. You're going to know what to do. Right now, you're young, you're inexperienced, you got all these questions. Hey, what do I do here? And every situation is different. Would you agree, Gage?
Yes, it is.
Every carrier, every customer acts and operates differently. But yeah, and that's just the way it is. Typically, when we get that first load from a customer, it is not a load that they're just going to say, "Oh, here you go, Ted. I've got a load for you. Just take this and cover it for me." It is not that way. It is, you've got to do some thinking. You've got to do some investigating. You've got to do some researching. And let's face it, Gage, you've got to negotiate hard. Not yelling, but you've got to stick to your guns. Hey, customer, I've got to deadhead my truck 100 miles to get to you. I mean, look at another $200 added onto this. You may pay the truck, 100 or 150. Of course, you want to factor in some profit for you, but this is all part of the game or the profession that we are in. Any other question, Greg?
No, that was it. Thank you.
Okay.
Thanks, Gage. Thanks, Ted.
Who's got the next
You're
question
welcome.
for Gage? Next question for Gage. Hit *6. Well, you got two great questions there, Gage.
Yeah.
Any other words or nuggets that you can share with us, Gage, before I cut you loose for today?
Well, never give up. We all seen the picture where the frog is choking the bird. That's literally how freight works. Never give up, and you can make a good living doing this job. If you put in the time and you put in the phone calls.
Yeah, you can make a great living.
Yeah, I am literally living the American dream.
You can. So describe that dream, Gage. Let me guess.
I'm married. I'm married with kids. I have my own business. I set my own hours. I handle my freight. And are there times that it's a little tough? Yeah. But I'm also flexible and free that I don't answer to anyone but myself and maybe Mike at LDI once in a while.
How about your commute? Describe your commute to us, Gage.
My commute is to the basement where my office is with my morning coffee.
Now, is that from Starbucks in Stoughton, or
I
homemade?
have a nice little Keurig that brews me up a nice cup to get me started.
Oh, okay. So you got a little cafe in town there.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, Keurig. Okay,
right out of the kitchen.
I see.
A little Keurig.
So that's home brewed. But basically, your commute is about 10 yards down to your basement.
That's right. That's where my office is.
Okay, wonderful. Any other?
And I actually do everything off my cell phone and laptop, so I'm pretty flexible.
Cell phone and laptop. No landline.
If I want to go somewhere, no landline. I do everything off my cell phone. Yep.
Okay. Would you advise that starting off?
No, I had a landline when I started, but then I don't know. Sometimes the customer really likes that personal, like, hey, this is my personal cell phone. You can get a hold of me anytime, and use this number, please. And
awesome.
Some of them really like that. They're like, okay. So when you get that 9 p.m. phone call, be very happy that customer called you at 9 p.m. freaking out because a carrier dumped their load.
Okay. Gage, it's been a pleasure having you on the call today. We are delighted to have had you. Quick announcement here. As you know, folks, any questions involving our content today, give me a call at the office here, 626-309-9141. Any questions involving our top-of-the-line LDI freight system, you know who to call on that. That would be my beautiful wife, Maria, and our assistant, Marilyn, at the same number, 626-309-9141. Any other question before we let Gage go here today, guys?
George from Pittsburgh.
George from Pittsburgh, Gage.
Just out of curiosity.
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay, go ahead, George.
Oh, yeah, I was wondering, like, what do you feel is a reasonable expectation as far as, setting your rates? Is 15% the magic number? Have you done, rates as high as 30%? Like, what do you feel is a comfortable zone to set your commission at?
I always set everything at 15%. And then through working if you can get set at 15% and get going on a lane, you usually can start working carriers and build that to a greater percent. But I always try to average 15%.
Okay. And is there a number that you won't go below?
No, there's loads that sometimes I only make like 4 or 5% on, but obviously you never try to make zero or go in the hole. But
15% is your target.
15% is the target, and I'd say that is it can be done pretty regular.
Okay.
Anything else, George?
No, that was my question.
Okay, good deal.
I just I noticed. I'll give you for instance for everyone. Last month or so, I noticed that my percentage was kind of going down, and I realized I kind of looked at what I'd been doing, and I said, I just been kind of taking the first carrier that calls. Maybe I'm being a little lazy in my negotiations. So over the month of March, I really tightened up my negotiations on each load. Mm-hmm. Like I really negotiated each load with the carrier. And I was able to average, I was able to get up to almost 20 just by doing that. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, it's sometimes you get comfortable and lazy and you're like, oh, okay, it's moving, everything's fine. But just think about all those couple extra bucks you're leaving out there.
George is a beginning agent of ours, Gage. But yeah, I agree with you. I mean, put up a piece of paper, 15% somewhere on the wall, George. Yeah. That is a great starting point. I mean, that's where you make the most commissions, when you surpass 15%. But yeah, right. Sometimes we have to take a loss. I will say myself, I just this last week I had to take a $200 loss on this one load just to get it moved. I mean, it's you must be using all the trucks in South Texas because this load was out of Laredo, Gage.
Oh, give me a call.
Next time I will.
Yeah, give me a holler.
My load was out of Laredo, and obviously I quoted my customer way too low, but I lost $200 just to get this load covered. And here's the thing, when you commit, everybody, when you commit to a load, you follow through. You follow through. That's the best word, because it's...
Nothing.
Go ahead, Gage.
Nothing will lose a customer faster if you give them back freight.
If you what?
If you give back freight.
If you give back freight. And here's another thing.
Yeah.
Here's another thing. I had to make an appointment for the receiver, and I didn't. So my truck had to wait an extra day to get loaded. That added to my loss. That added to my loss. But you know what? I am going to follow through on what I committed myself to do here. By the time I was done, I had about a $450 loss on this load. But you always follow through. Thanks for joining us today, Gage. I will see you down the road. I wish you the best of luck. God bless you and your family, Gage, as well as everybody else on the call. It's been a pleasure, guys. Again, 626-309-9141. We are here between 5 in the morning till, say, 3 in the afternoon Pacific time. Gage, take care. Everybody, take care. God bless. We'll talk to you soon.
Bye-bye.
You've just taken a tremendous step forward by watching and applying my Tuesday conference call highlight. Do you desire to earn and learn with our top freight team and Christian-based office? Yes? We're searching for a self-starter who's serious, motivated, and ready to take action right now. Is that you? Go to tedkeysonline.com/contacts and enter your contact details. We provide top-notch freight agent sales training to you. Then you deliver those same skills with confidence to the freight industry marketplace. I'll talk to you soon.